Hello and welcome to the radiotimes.com Doctor Who podcast. My name's Hugh, and this week I am joined by regular friend of the podcast, Helen Daly. Hello, Helen.
Hi, Hugh.
Thanks for joining us. It's very hot. It's very hot everywhere at the moment. Let this be a time capsule if you're listening to this later on for how hot it was at the moment. I was going to say it's like the Doctor Who episode 42, just keeping it on brand. Burn with me, indeed. But yeah, so if anyone's wondering, I haven't been replaced or regenerated as host. I've just got a cold. So that's why my throat is making me sound a bit different. But, the fire of talking about Doctor Who remains, and this week we're kind of doing an anniversary thing because it's been 4 years and a bit, been 4 years and a few days since the reveal of Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. Someone pointed this out on Twitter, and I honestly couldn't believe it. It's been that long. Helen, it was on July 16th, 2017. We weren't working together at that point. Where were you? Did you watch it kind of as it happened? Or did you catch up later?
Yeah, I was actually watching the Wimbledon final, so I was enjoying the tennis very much so, and then got a nice surprise from Jodie Whittaker. And I just remember, obviously we kind of knew it was coming. I just remember sitting forward on the edge of my seat thinking, is this it? Is this it? Is this the first woman? And then thank God it was, yeah.
I mean, it's funny because so I was working at Radio Times and we were very on this. We were like, oh, we know this announcement's coming. We were poring over all the clues, trying to work out who it could be. And I ended up being on duty on that day. So I was kind of watching. And, David Tennant was at the Wimbledon final and they kind of singled him out. And everyone was like, oh, my God, it's just going to be David Tennant again. Good times. And we ended up worrying about that because that's what we do. And yeah, I remember there's always rumors that come out really close to when the Doctor's revealed. And when it was Matt Smith, it was kind of obvious that it was going to be Matt Smith because it was a bunch of famous actors and then Matt Smith, who no one at the time really had heard of. So it was kind of well, it's probably this guy because that's a weird thing to make up. And that's happened, in other years since with Pearl Mackie as well. You're kind of well, if someone's starting a rumor about an actor I haven't heard of, that's probably a true rumor unless they've got a really good agent. And in this case, on the that backfired a bit because on the day or so before, there'd been rumors for ages, right? We all knew the Chris Marshall thing was Chris Marshall was going to be the 13th Doctor was the big rumor. Tilda Swinton, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, all that stuff. And Chris Chibnall had done an interview saying he didn't want to, make a female Doctor for a token gesture, which a lot of people read as well, I'm not going to do it. But actually, he was kind of being sneaky. And then on the day, the kind of runners and riders came out and the latest betting, and on the list was Jodie Whittaker, and I was like, they won't do that. I was like, that's not going to happen. I mean, how wrong I was. I was all prepped for another actor whose name I probably won't say in case it embarrasses them, but there was another actor who was rumored, and not that well-known actor who kind of mainly had a small role in a BBC sitcom that I knew. He's a Welsh actor, and I was kind of like, oh, this guy seems likely. I had a story prepped genuinely saying, so and so is the 13th Doctor, and his bio and all this stuff. Complete waste of time. I did not prep anything for Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, I remember that rumor about that actor, and yeah, I think I didn't think it would be a woman. Genuinely, I just didn't think they'd do it. Obviously, they'd established in the Whoniverse that they could do it.
Yeah, with Missy and everything.
Missy. So yeah, I just thought, nah, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So yeah, I was with you on that rumor. I was very, very surprised to see Jodie underneath the hood. But I was really pleased, actually, because obviously I was a Broadchurch fan, loved Broadchurch, thought she was absolutely fantastic in it. And I thought, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And she's Northern. I'm Northern. She's Northern. I'm in for it.
It worked. I mean, I remember when the actual clip comes and it's the Doctor in that hoodie or whatever, there's a bit where the hand comes out with the TARDIS key, and I was like, that's not a woman's hands. So sorry to Jodie Whittaker because it was a woman's hands. She's very nice, dainty hands. So I think it was just a perspective issue. Because then a second later I took the hood off and I was like, okay, well, it's clearly Jodie Whittaker with a new blonde haircut. And it was funny, yeah, because we'd had her in the Radio Times just recently doing something or other. I think we'd written up about her being in that show Trust Me, where she was pretending to be a doctor. So everyone loved that. Or maybe that was after. But yeah, no, it is funny, isn't it, to kind of look back. And then also we were covering it live, so we kind of had to scramble and be like, we need to write all this, we need to kind of, find out what the story is. And yeah, I mean, they did such a good job of keeping it secret. I think it's probably the best Doctor reveal, right? I think it's certainly in the modern era that I can think of. I think it's my favorite.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, having it on probably one of the biggest Sundays of the year when the men's finals on for Wimbledon, there's a lot of viewers, who fans or not, a lot of people watching that. And it had to be a big historic moment. It just had to. I think they got it right with the time they released it. They got it right with the occasion, the tone of it, just that little sneak under the hood. Didn't really give too much away about the character, what Jodie's doctor was going to be like, but it just revealed that it was a woman, and I think that's all they had to do.
Yeah, and then also she strides away to that cardboard cutout of the wrong TARDIS. It's like the David Tennant TARDIS rather than the Peter Capaldi one at the time. And all the fans were like, "Oh, how can they do the wrong TARDIS?" And it's like, it's fine. We kind of get the idea. They didn't want to put a real TARDIS.
Complain about.
It's true. And yeah, they did this whole piece about Chris Chibnall wrote in the Doctor Who magazine about how they kind of pulled this off, and it was all very secretive. Like she obviously didn't tell anyone she had the job, apart from her husband, I think. And they went to a hotel, checked in under assumed names, just went to the woods. There was like hardly any crew. They just shot this little thing, and it was pretty soon. I think it was only like a few weeks before they actually showed it, and it was just huge. It was such a huge moment. I mean, I remember before they announced Jodie as the Doctor, I kind of thought Peter Capaldi's last series. At this point, before Peter Capaldi's last series came out, we knew he was leaving and that Stephen Moffat was leaving and that Chris Chibnall was coming in. That was all pretty early on. And so I'd kind of been a bit like, is this going to be a lame duck series? And actually, watching that Peter Capaldi series, I thought, God, you know what? They've almost stolen the thunder of the next Doctor by kind of, it's almost rebooted in that series. Peter Capaldi's Doctor is kind of given a new kind of purpose, and they get a new companion, and it was really good. And I was like, oh wow, blah, blah, blah. And then they announced the first female Doctor. I'm like, well, yeah, that's going to reboot it again in a kind of more clear way, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like the only thing that you can trump Peter Capaldi's, probably the performance of his life. You can trump it with history.
Yeah, and it's funny because to me that day still feels so like relatively recent. I mean, it was 4 years ago, pretty much dead on. Very different world, obviously, in some ways, but it was such an exciting moment. And now all of a sudden, it's 4 years later. She's done 2 series and a few specials, and there's talk that she's leaving. I mean, isn't it strange to kind of that whole cycle almost? I mean, I don't, she hasn't confirmed she's leaving, and it could be that even if she is, it's not going to be until late next year. Is kind of the latest noise. But is it kind of strange that we're kind of almost at the end of that sort of whole story?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, the kind of perfectionist in me would like her to end, or the new Doctor to be announced on the 5th anniversary when she was last announced. But
that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Maybe next year. But yeah, I think I think she's had a fantastic tenure. She's overcome a lot of critics, it's fair to say. There was the whole hashtag Not My Doctor movement. I think she's completely silenced those critics with some fantastic performances, and I think she's really done herself proud and done the history of Who proud, really.
I remember there was that thing of like, oh, there'll be a TARDIS full of bras. That was the thing people said.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and you know what? They were right. Every episode, just constantly. It's been a nightmare. No, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of that reaction. I mean, I remember in the press release that she kind of, I think they anticipate some of it in the press release. She kind of said, I can't remember exactly what her words were, but she almost apologized. She was like, the Doctor's still the Doctor. It's not going to change anything. It's just that I'm a woman. I'm an actor who's playing the role. Almost like kind of trying to get ahead of it. And I did think at the time it's kind of sad because like, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? The Doctor can be anyone. Like it shouldn't matter. But there has always been this kind of like, this kind of backlash. And, to be fair, sometimes people lump in fans who just don't like it as being, sexist or whatever. And it's totally fine to not like it. But it's also, on the flip side, you can't deny that a lot of the dislike has been people who kind of just resent the kind of, culture war, element of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got her quote here. On
the very good, very good.
She said, "I want to tell the fans not to be scared by my gender."
That's it.
That's a really interesting word to use, being scared by the gender. She says, the fans have lived through so many changes, and this is only a new, different one, not a fearful one. And I think that was actually a really powerful statement to come out with. Yes, Doctor Who ultimately and fundamentally is all about change and regeneration and new. And I guess, well, new but old. And I guess, she having to come out and say, don't be scared of that, is her reinforcing what Doctor Who is. She got it immediately. She knows what Doctor Who is about. She knows that change is good, change happens, and yeah, it's nothing unusual to the Doctor Who universe. So I think it's, in a way, it was really sad that she had to come out and even say that, because of course, you know, we'd want her to just be accepted completely. But I think actually it was a really powerful statement looking back, and really solidified her with me as a true Doctor.
I mean, Terror of the Gender sounds like a very mid-tier Doctor Who episode. Yeah, and the interesting thing is as well, you know, we talked about that moment, you know, 4 years ago this week, where, you know, it's revealed, it's like, oh, it's the first female Doctor, you know, made headlines worldwide, everyone was losing it. And obviously there's been a kind of smaller version of that with Jo Martin more recently, where she was the first actor of colour to play the Doctor, albeit a kind of non-main Doctor, if you get what I mean. She's not the main character. You know, at time of recording, you never know what's going to happen. But now, you know, that kind of, I don't know, I was going to say that glass ceiling. I feel like there's a terrible Doctor Who analogy I could make, like a glass TARDIS ceiling, I don't know, has been broken. It feels like now, you know, the next time you unveil the Doctor, the kind of precedent is a bit more interesting, because the Doctor had always been played by male actors. And, you know, Doctor had always been presented as a man. And obviously we've had this first female Doctor. And it's kind of like, you know, what do you do now? I mean, if there's another female Doctor, it wouldn't be this big moment. It would be like, oh, right, cool. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that pressure's gone because of, you know, that reveal, because of Jodie.
I think, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Speaking about Jo Martin, I spoke to her for the International Women's Day feature.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, she said, you know, seeing that moment that Jodie was unveiled, that was it. Anything was possible. Jo Martin could be the Doctor if she wanted to be, and she was thrilled to be. So I think, yeah, it does make it a lot more interesting now. And really, there is nothing left to be fearful of. I mean, unless they want to go down the kid Loki route and do kid Doctor, maybe technically we could.
Alligator Doctor, that would be great.
I wouldn't be mad. I'd have it. But yeah, you know, we could go literally anywhere: young, old, male, female, non-binary. It really doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I think it
right for the show. It's fantastic.
I think it really opens things up, because, you know, it's funny because both Jo and Jodie have said in interviews that when they were younger, they'd been like, oh, you know, this isn't a role I could play. Like, Jodie did an interview years before she did Doctor Who, where she was like, there's some roles like James Bond or Doctor Who that I'll never get to do, which is kind of crazy. And obviously Jo Martin said in that interview, that great interview you did, you know, when she was a little girl, she wanted to play the Doctor, and they said, oh no, you can't. You know, you can't be the hero in our games, you know, when she was a kid. So it is crazy that that's been broken. And also, yeah, the kind of the field's wide open, like it could be anyone next. And, you know, like, I do think that it would be interesting if they, you know, have another male actor, which definitely could be the case. I hope it isn't seen as like a refutation of like what Jodie's done, or like, oh God, let's backtrack that. Because I don't think it would be. I think it would it's always just who's the best actor for the job. And it's a shame that I feel like maybe you'd hope that we've got some more female Doctors coming up, just because you kind of need to just make it could be either or. And then just, you know, the precedent set there, that it isn't a really big statement either way. And it's just like, oh, cool, that's who's playing the Doctor now.
Yeah, I mean, I very much believe in the best person for the job. But yeah, I think it would be sensible for them to continue with a female Doctor for the next one. Whatever that might be, I think, just to reinforce the fact that actually, no, we are doing female Doctors, and that is the thing now.
Yeah, I think if you did two, then everyone's like, okay, cool, and then you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, do two, and then next match, do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. You know, assuming Doctor Who, you know, continues for as long as fans would like. You know, there might be some years in the wilderness again ahead. There was a piece in The Guardian today saying Doctor Who should be exterminated, which, you know, to each their own opinion. I'm not going to slag anyone off, but, you know, hopefully not, because we'd love to see some more of these Doctors coming up. But yeah, well, listen, Helen, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great chatting about Jodie. It's maybe all nostalgic and misty-eyed for that sunny summer, I think it was sunny, of 2017, when we could, like, well, to be fair, we are technically allowed to do stuff now, but we could do slightly more stuff back then. If you listening at home have any fond memories of that Jodie Whittaker reveal 4 years ago this week, let us know in the comments. You can find us on YouTube, on Twitter at Radio Times, usual places. And yeah, we'll be back next week with hopefully the exciting, you know, news about Series 13 from San Diego Comic-Con at home, which is coming soon. So very exciting. We might actually see, you know, some of Jodie's new series in a trailer or something. Fingers crossed. Until then, I've been Hugh.
I've been Helen.
Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.